What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be showcasing how to beat the currently available Grandmaster Nightfall, the Fallen S.A.B.E.R, as fast and easily as possible by showcasing some incredible loadouts, one for each different class, as well as a bunch of tips for the strike itself. And so, let's get started. Now guys, the big reward this week is going to be the updated Wild Style Grenade Launcher. This was very recently introduced, I think last season, but it had its perk pool completely updated with this new season and its first introduction within Act 2. So this is actually the first and only breach-loaded grenade launcher that, as you can see right here, can get reconstruction. This is super juicy. So, first of all, let's start out with the loadouts, and the modifiers you need to be aware of when creating your loadouts are as follows. First of all, you are going to have barrier and overload champions. After that, it is going to be arc threat, which in this strike is a big deal. After that, we do have arc surge, solar surge, as well as overcharged fusion rifles to have an increase in damage. Now, moving on from there, I was playing the Titan, and what I was playing, of course, was the ability spam Titan build I am absolutely in love with for endgame content. Did a video on that. That's going to be linked right up above if you want more detail. And in the background gameplay, I'm just going to be quickly going over what I'm using in my subclass as well as the different armor mods I have equipped. But moving on from there, in terms of the weaponry, first of all, I'm using the Outbreak Perfected as my pulse rifle to deal with those barrier champions. Just a fantastic weapon overall, and the nanites will help break through those barrier shields. After that, I'm using the brand new Aberrant Action. Made a video on this, guys. It's linked right up above. This is arguably the new best weapon for PvE in the game because it's arguably the best rocket-assisted frame sidearm in the game. Unbelievably good with heal clip plus incandescent, and yeah, it was good even in Grandmasters. After that, I am using the Apex Predator as a solar rocket launcher, and then moving on from there, guys, for our Hunter, they were actually going to be using the Prismatic Hunter Liars plus Caliban's melee build. Again, did a video on that. It's linked right up above if you want more detail about the inner workings of this build. And then in this video, just going to be quickly going over the different abilities, the different fragments, as well as the armor mods used for this specific activity. But after we're done with that, in terms of the weapons, guys, first of all, the Lingering Dread. You know, my teammate here has been using this thing basically every Grandmaster, and it's fantastic with blinding grenades plus chill clip. Remember, slow can stun those overload champions. It's really, really good. After that, we do have an Adhortative. This has the heal clip plus incandescent incredible roll, but on a pulse rifle, of course, to deal with those barrier champions. And then lastly, we do have a Galahorn to massively improve the damage output of all of our other legendary rocket launchers in the fire team. So moving on from there, in terms of the Warlock here, we are going to be using the incredible Speaker Sight healing build. Again, did a video on that if you want more information, but in terms of what we're using, abilities as well as fragments and armor mods, going to be showcasing that in the background gameplay. Feel free to, pause, slow it down if you want to just copy what we're using. But in terms of the weapons this time, we actually have a Riptide, again with chill clip. The logic is the same, good against the overloads, good in general, very, very good perk here. Then we have the Sunshot as our primary because we have overload hand cannon rounds this episode, and the Sunshot is like arguably the best PvE hand cannon in the game, just incredible, especially because we have that solar surge. And then lastly, guys, we are yet again going to have an Apex Predator as our rocket launcher, bit of a different role, however, with bipod, just so you have so much more ammo to get those, Wolfpack rounds on. Then moving on from there, let's get to some tips for the strike itself. When you first load in, just get on your Sparrow and skip past this entire opening section. It's just a like public space, and even though there are going to be enemies shooting at you, you should be able to get past them. Once you get into this other area, you're going to have the Warsat spawn in. Make sure you're hiding behind some rocks when it does spawn in, because oh my goodness, it can kill you and frankly your entire team if you're too close. Now once you actually get inside the Warsat circle, you're going to have the fallen ships that start to spawn. As you can see right here, guys, the first thing you want to do is actually shoot these ships' turrets, and then they will break off. This is huge. If you don't do this, they can absolutely clap you and get you in weird angles because they're floating in the air. Now, you are also going to see, potentially in the background gameplay, my teammate shoot these ships with his blinding grenade launcher, and that actually makes the turrets go away. Now, they will eventually respawn, but it's another strategy to just make sure you're not getting shot by those ships. Now, importantly, guys, for this section, the number one key if you're having trouble is that you can get off the Warsat zone, and that will actually make no more enemies spawn. So what you can do is you can hop on, and as soon as you see a fallen ship, everyone gets off and no one touches it until you're completely done with that wave of ads. That way you can like really take your time, you won't get overwhelmed as easily, and when you kill every single enemy from that wave, then you can hop back onto the Warsat, improve the percentage, and that's going to spawn more ships. You do the same thing, you hop off, you deal with those enemies, etc, etc. And that is kind of the key of taking this first encounter slow and just being able to much easier get through this encounter. Now you can see in the background gameplay, we're not doing that. We're just staying in the circle, and we have multiple ships spawning at the same time. And yeah, it can get a little bit hectic, and probably we shouldn't have done that, but we're all just enamored with how good our builds are, so we couldn't help it. But moving on from there, once you're done with the Warsat objective, you're going to progress the strike and come down to this room here. And this room is actually pretty tricky, because here's what's going to happen. You have a bunch of fallen snipers in like the back half of this room, and they can absolutely clap you, especially with arc threat. And then you also have a barrier champion at the back, which is going to shield those snipers, so you kind of have to focus down the barrier champion in order to deal with those snipers, or nuke the snipers as soon as you come in this room. And then while you're trying to deal with the snipers, you also have a bunch of invisible marauders charging you as well. Yeah, it's kind of a doozy, and really your only cover is like this one box you can see me behind right here. That's why the brand new rocket sidearm was being used. You can see it absolutely claps these marauders and any sort of low-level ad that are going to be pushing you here, and it was very, very good for making sure you don't get overwhelmed, and then you can have just enough breathing space to, as a team, focus down that champion, and then things are going to get a lot easier, at least for a while. Remember, like throwing grenades back there, blinding grenade launchers, super, super valuable for just being able to make those snipers not shoot you for a little bit, so you can kind of do some other stuff, focus your attention some different directions. Now you are going to have an overload champion spawn as well in this location and charge you, so just get ready for that too. But eventually you are going to be able to kill all of these ads, and then no more ads will spawn, and you actually have an objective at the back of this room, and what it is to blow up what's inside this vent. Now, importantly, the second you destroy this, more enemies are going to start to spawn, and then 2 overload champions are going to spawn in this hallway, as you can see. Now, the strategy here is that you have to nuke them. So throw a pulse grenade with Jolt, for example, have someone with the hand cannon ready to go, and then everyone uses their heavies, rockets, grenades, whatever you have, super if you're out of that stuff, to just make sure you nuke these guys down as quickly as possible. If you don't, it is extremely overwhelming. Now, in the gameplay, you can see us nuke these guys from the room and then make our retreat. However, you may want to actually go through this hallway and get completely outside of the room so that nothing can shoot you from behind. You have a little bit longer to deal with those overload champions, and then you can make your way back into this room. Whatever you want to do, but if you're confident that you can nuke these guys, do what you see in the background gameplay, and then a bunch of other enemies are going to spawn, you can leave them all. As you can see right here, you head through these vents and you're gone. You don't have to kill any more adds than the champions to get that platinum rating. Now, after that, we have the electrified hallway. Essentially, go in here, kill the shanks that spawn on the opposite end. One person is going to pick up the arc ball and transport it down. Remember to, like, jump, bounce off the roof to massively increase your speed, especially if you're a hunter, and you can make it all the way down pretty fast while the rest of your team is making sure there's not a bunch of exploding shanks waiting for you where you have to plant it. And then moving on from there, it's just kind of the standard get to an area, kill a bunch of adds, deal with the champion sort of thing. You may have to progress a little bit slowly in the second room because there's going to be a bunch of fallen snipers kind of with a great line of sight as you're coming down this hallway, but a couple rocket launchers will make those guys think differently. And then, guys, eventually we are going to get to the boss fight. Now, this is a bit interesting here. The boss is doing this new thing where it immediately goes under the map. It happened like a few times in a row for us, so that was definitely weird, even when we didn't even shoot it. But it's going to eventually come back up, and this is where you nuke the boss a little bit with your rocket launchers. You're going to get to that first break in the health bar, and then a bunch more adds are going to spawn, including some barrier champions. So make sure you have someone, as you can see right here, dealing with those shanks that are kind of spawning behind you here. You're usually going to hold out in this kind of back V of the room where you first drop down. There is a box you can use for cover, and then you can retreat easily over to the left, but there are also going to be the shanks that are pouring out of these walls. But again, hey, if you have a rocket sidearm, those shanks are no problem, dude. Now, while you're also fighting here, keep in mind there are going to be some sniper shanks that will, depending on how badly you hurt the boss, spawn on the upper right-hand side of this arena, so just kind of watch for them. But the most important thing is that this boss fight is going to have that, first chunk of health down, you kill adds, you get the second chunk down, you kill adds, and then remember, the last 2 chunks of health, there's going to be no in-between phase. You have to nuke the boss in that time, because once you get that, third chunk of health down and the boss is on the last chunk, it's actually going to kind of transform. It will no longer snipe you with its weapons. It will, as you can see, just start charging you. So you definitely want to make sure you have some supers, some heavy, something to deal with that guy before he can get right on top of you. And so, guys, there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.